Well, it is officially NFL Draft Week, and we are so excited to be joined by NFL Network analyst Daniel Jeremiah. And this is your week. You have been waiting and preparing for these few days coming up. And Daniel, we have over here in the Vikings front office 4 picks currently going into the NFL Draft. How can this front office focus on the quality of pick with less quantity?
I just think you just trade all those picks up and then you can go like, I don't know, maybe go on a nice vacation, find a beach somewhere and just kind of just chill and rest if you're the Vikings at this point in time. Now they don't have a lot of picks, but they have some options. You can move around and try and maximize, your options there by getting more picks, or you just look at it and say, hey, let's just get some impact. We're not that far away from where we ultimately want to be. We only need 1 or 2 players. So whether that's a safety, a defensive tackle, wherever you want to go in that direction, it's not gonna be a long press conference as it stands right now, right? It's not gonna be that many players to introduce, but you can get those last little finishing pieces.
Yeah, they're hoping for those impact players, and obviously that means your first round picks, they just mean more at this point. So with the Vikings being at 24, a lot of draft analysts are saying they're going to go in the defensive direction. Where do you think the Vikings go with 24?
Yeah, I think that, those safeties make a lot of sense. Malachi Stark's a really, really good player. Nick Emanwari is an excellent player. Different styles and how you would use them and how you deploy them. But those are really good players. Now, people might say, do you want to take a safety in the first round? Would you rather do that a little bit later? I just think there's a big gap between those 2 guys and the rest of them. You can look at the defensive tackle options that could be there at that point in time to roll some guys through there. Walter Nolan, is a real dynamic upfield rusher. You've got to get quarterbacks on the ground if you want to get where you want to go, and that's somebody that can do that from the interior, which is hard to find. When you look at the top of the next round, you can find a whole host of things. You look at corners, that's kind of a spot where you'll see some corners come off the board. They've invested in the interior of the defensive line and the offensive line, but it just feels like they're never going to be satisfied there. Just keep throwing more guys in there. And I think the Eagles, with what they did last year with the number of guys they played up front defensively, even with the additions that they've made in free agency and some of the young players they have in that front 7, I just think you just continue to add to it and add more guys. So if the phone rang, I would think they would be receptive to it. I don't know that there's that difference, that much difference to go back into the early even part of the second round. And you might get somebody who wants a quarterback, and then you can get a little premium there.
Yeah. Well, that was the position they were in last year. So this year, even Kevin O'Connell just spoke this afternoon saying that they don't feel like they have any particular need where if it pops up and they're, in round 3, 5, or 6, they have to go to a certain position. They're thinking of that best available player. How do you think their moves in free agency set them up to be able to make that call and be confident in saying that in their press conferences?
Well, I mean, I think they knew they didn't have a lot of picks. So, they were active and aggressive in free agency. When you look at the interior of the offensive line with the guys from the Colts, and then you get the 2 D tackles, and then you go out and get a running back, which the running backs, Mason's probably surprised me more than anything else just because this draft is so rich in running back. But now you've got a really good situation with what they accomplished there in the offseason. So, yeah, they're freed up. And to me, when you're freed up and you look at luxuries, I just still go back to the line of scrimmage. And I just think, man, you can absorb injuries. It gives you some depth there, and it gives you some long-term, possibilities there as well. So I think safety is one I can look at and say, okay, with some age there, you could look at that being a possibility. But man, the more I just look at it and think about it, I just think, just go get another defensive lineman. That's what this draft is.
That's fair. Yeah. So do you think that's the strength of this one? Like when they have to be on the clock in those later rounds, if they're trying to find the most value, is defensive tackle like the pick this year?
Yeah, there's a boatload of them. Literally on the flight out here to Green Bay, I kind of went through and averaged the last 5 years at certain positions and where we were light and where we were heavy. And easily defensive tackle was the heaviest, in terms of what the norms are and the number of guys that I had in the top 150 players. So yeah, there's going to be value sprinkled throughout the draft at that spot. And then, edge rushers is deep as well. And then, some of the places it's light, man, it's weird because I feel like receivers just fall out of the sky that we have so many receivers every year. And this year, that was one of the numbers that came up a little bit short for me. So it's always fun to kind of step back from looking at the individual players and try and take in the whole draft class. And that was really the big takeaway. Defensive tackles thumbs up, and the receiver depth just kind of so-so.
Yeah, there's also several tight ends that are catching a lot of y'all's eyes in this draft class, and with this team only having two right now, T.J. Hawkinson and Josh Oliver, they have said, Quaysito Foments actually said last week that tight end could be a position that they try to address in the draft. What is a name that we could watch to come off the board to this Vikings team?
Well, I mean, I don't think the top two guys are there when they pick. So you take Loveland and Warren off the board from Michigan and Penn State. To me, the next one would be like Mason Taylor. The closer we get to the draft, the more I think he's going to go in the back of the first round. He's just too clean. He's too safe. You know exactly what you're getting with him. And it's not just the bloodlines and his dad and his uncle and those things. It's, he has size. He can move. He's instinctive. I kind of look at him as someone that where Washington's picking, and I go, man, Jaden Daniels probably knocking on doors saying, I played with him at LSU. He's pretty good. But I could see that being someone that could be in play there for the Minnesota Vikings and kind of get their, talk about going out there in 12 personnel. That'd be kind of fun with the guys they could put out there.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. It's awesome that you're already in Green Bay, ready to go. You can watch him on the NFL Network during the draft, all through all 7 rounds. Thank you so much, Daniel. Really appreciate it.